Welcome back, everybody. We are here with Representative Randy Forbes of the beautiful state of Virginia. Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
You represent what area of Virginia?
I represent the southeastern portion of Virginia. My home city is Chesapeake, and I represent all the way up to southern part of Richmond and around the Richmond area. So it's a great area.
You've been up to the Great Falls and McLean area.
Sure. It's a beautiful area.
Yes, I went to Langley High School, graduated in 1992.
Well, no, it's a wonderful, wonderful area.
It is a wonderful area. So we're here talking about money. The federal deficit, obviously, on the front burner. Is it never not on the front burner? But of course, this week when the Senate's top guy, Harry Reid, of course, blasted the GOP bill that would essentially overturn the automatic defense cuts, other cuts slated for January 3rd that would go into effect. What do you think of what Harry Reid had to say this week?
Well, first of all, what we have to do is step back and see what's really going to happen. And what's going to happen is this: in just about 6 months, we are going to see over $1 trillion of cuts to national defense begin in this country.
And other things.
No. Just national defense. And the part of that, if you listen to the Air Force, not my words, what the Air Force has said, it will put them on their words, ragged edge. If you listen to what the Navy says, it will reduce the number of ships in our Navy down to the lowest number in 100 years. We'll have less ships than the Chinese have. If you listen to what the Army and Marine Corps said, they will have to pink slip 150 to 200,000 people, which is like getting rid of the entire Marine Corps in one fell swoop. And if you listen to what the Secretary of Defense said, it will cost us 1.5 million jobs across the country. But worse than that, Julie, is the fact that for the first time we won't necessarily be able to, we're moving at least dangerously close to not being able to guarantee the security of the United States of America. And I don't think the American people want us to be there.
You have Republicans and critics of the administration, the current administration, saying, how could this possibly be? How could we possibly even consider letting this happen? And then you go back to, well, there hasn't been an attack on the United States, the continental United States. We've caught Osama bin Laden. Maybe the mentality of America is we're a lot safer than we are before, and that's just simply not the case. I mean, Al-Qaeda, as we heard Brennan say, they're still out there. They've sort of shape-shifted, if you will, but they're still out there. And defense is something that Americans are starting to be concerned about again. We hear about this second underwear bomber.
And that's all just the tip of the iceberg. What we're looking at, do we really want a world where we have fewer ships than we have had for 100 years? Do we really want a world where the Chinese will outnumber us 2 to 1 in the Pacific in submarines? Do we want a world where the Chinese have the ability to hit our ships 185 kilometers out and we can only hit theirs 124 out? Do we want a world where we're losing 1.5 million jobs without stepping back and say, wait a minute, why is this happening, and shouldn't we start looking at how we stop it from taking place?
Do you think this is getting as much play?
No.
As you would hope it would?
No, and that's why we are
Why do you think not?
I'll tell you 2 reasons. First of all, what we're trying to do to stop it. We're going on 20 different states. People can go on our website at defendingourdefenders.com, and they'll find out the specifics of these cuts and what they can do to stop them.
There's the website right now.
But the other thing, and the reason it is, a few years ago, when this administration came in, they literally issued gag orders at the Pentagon. People there, both in uniform and not in uniform, couldn't even talk to members of Congress about the ramifications of cuts. Julie, I've never seen this kind of silence when you have something this big. And all we want the American people to do is to be able to know what's going to happen, and then they can make a decision. Do they want to dismantle the greatest military we've ever known?
Is this falling on deaf ears with America?
No.
Right now, Americans, you ask them what is their biggest concern,
right.
And you know what the answer is. It's unemployment, the economy, their money, their pocketbook. How can we pay for our rent, our mortgage?
And follow up with the second question, which is this: do you know what these cuts are going to do and what's happening? And nobody
you don't
knows.
think the people do?
Nobody in the studio knows. And the reason is because the administration...
I take offense to that, sir.
No, I'm saying most people in Congress don't.
Right.
Because the administration has not even allowed them to do the planning to tell people these cuts and what they're going to do. Let me give you one example. They were getting ready to cut apart 7 of our newest cruisers. The firepower on those cruisers would be twice the entire surface missile capability of the British Navy. And we weren't losing them. We were cutting them up and getting rid of them. That kind of stuff just doesn't make sense. American people, I think, if they hear it, are going to be appalled at that.
Democrats who support Harry Reid and so forth say, look, there are some areas that are obsolete. We have to make cuts. Defense has to be a part of this. There are certain areas, you Republicans, you just got to give a little. What do you think about that argument?
Well, first of all, I absolutely agree. The areas that are obsolete, we need to get rid of.
Well, specifically what?
Well, I think there are a number of things that we need to do at the Department of Defense. We've been pushing to audit the Department of Defense, and we're going to continue to do that. I think the American people have the right to know two things: where our money is going, how much is being spent. We're going to push to do that. But the second thing is they need to know exactly what's at stake and what we're putting them at risk at. And when you ask the American people, do you really want our ships to be down this low and this number and have half of what we need in our ships, they're going to say no. They're the kinds of things that Harry Reid didn't mention and he didn't discuss.
You just said something interesting. You know, Americans don't know what really is out there. There's this sort of collective peace and almost a blind eye. We don't want to know. And you know, with all due respect to the administration, I mean, they can't tell us everything. I mean, the president knows what's going on, and the intercabinet knows what's going on, and some of the really, really scary things, the classified things, and so on and so forth. But these aren't things that you can tell the American people. So what is it that we can say? What is it that Republicans can say, and people who do support not having these massive defense cuts? What do you say to the American people?
Great question. Right, and the first thing I'd say is you're right. I'm not going to talk to you about the classified stuff. But there's plenty of unclassified stuff that's so obvious. One of the things that the American people know is this. We know we don't want to go down to 230 ships when the Chinese are going to have more ships in their Navy than we're going to have in our Navy, and it's the lowest number in 100 years. That's not classified. People say,
well, wait a second, why do we care about the Chinese and their Navy and our Navy?
I can tell you why. Because they know that if we don't have a strong Navy, that 90% of all the goods in the world go by water. If we don't have a strong Navy to protect that, they don't want America to look like that. One of the things they know is that in the Pacific, the President himself has just said we're going to shift this pivot to the Pacific. But does it really make sense that we would have half the number of submarines that the Chinese have? That? No. American people are going to say no. And Julie, the thing that strikes their pocketbook, they don't realize what these cuts are going to do to Main Street America. When you put out 1.5 million job losses, that's enormous. And when you start talking about pink slipping 150 to 200,000 men and women in active duty, I think when they hear those numbers, they're going to say, I don't have to know classified information. That's enough for me.
We could talk about this for hours, but actually you did mention your website, and let's do this again. It's defendingourdefenders.com. You've got a lot of interesting information on that. What else can we find out when we go on this website?
They can not only find that, but they can find where we're coming to an area near them, so they can come out and give us their stories, and they can go on and talk about how important these defense matters are to them, and we're going to take all that information and bring it back to Washington.
And you will explain to them, you know, in finer detail than you can here on the web show.
We're going to explain to them and also listen to their stories. We're going to have retired admirals, generals, average individuals to talk about the impact of all these cuts on them in a reality that they can't get in a snapshot viewpoint.
Representative Randy Forbes of the beautiful state of Virginia.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
It's great to be with you.
You're doing a whole big tour. I saw you with Fox and Friends this morning.
We are. This is an important issue.
All right. All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.